And today we thought we'd have a conversation amongst ourselves about the trends in rebuilding post-pandemic partner teams. So we've seen some restaurants disappear and some other businesses disappear. Networking groups went virtual for a bit. So this is a conversation about what's working for us and what we need so that we can either be involved with the right groups or do more effective networking now that we have swung one way with the pendulum. We remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking with the SBDC about unpivoting. So we thought it'd be good to have a conversation about how far we want to unpivot or not, and what's going to work for each of us. So this is a group conversation with the first question being kind of looking for yourself. What do you want or need from a networking partner? And this is anybody can just jump into the conversation. What do you need from networking partners?
It depends what kind of partner. I know a lot of people. I've met a lot of people. I got 3 truckloads of LinkedIn connections. The vast majority of them pose no value. But I have a very small circle of extremely valuable connections and partners that we help each other. And so if somebody wants to be in my circle, you know, it's somebody who's genuine. I can spot inauthenticity a mile away, not because I'm smarter than anybody, just because I'm 54 years old and this is not my first rodeo.
So you're saying, Jonathan, that authenticity gets into your circle? That's what you're looking for?
That's part of the formula. If you're authentic and you want to be a partner, then be a partner. You know, we talked about, and I agree with Angie when she said, you know, people who walk around networking events handing out business cards, you know, I mean, there should be a meme of somebody walking into a networking event with a Liberace jacket saying, "Here I am, aren't I wonderful?" And those people have probably not been in business for a minute, or they're hugely unpopular and unsuccessful. A lot of people don't know how to do it.
So we have other people in the call. What is it that makes them a good partner besides being authentic? Donna or Scott, go ahead, please.
I know for me, I mean, you know, 2 things. One, you have like ABGT, where it's a very dynamic group, people outside of my specific industry. When I look inside of my industry, I'm looking for people who are kind of doing, like, we're all looking for the exact same thing. So I mean, even if, you know, whether it's you like them or not, I mean, like you basically connect because, you know, we're all kind of searching for a common goal. So that's like the inside my industry, and then outside of that, I would say, you know, we want people who obviously you know, like Jonathan said, like you may have a connection with immediately, people you can trust, people you can kind of rely on for outside thoughts.
And what I see from my current network, not only do they contact me when they want business from me or they have business for me, they contact me with like great ideas. Like, it had nothing to do with financial planning. Yuli thought about what I do with the service dogs, and she wrapped me in with Patrick. They contact me about things that happen in their day that they thought of me. Like, you know, hey, we were talking about so-and-so. I might send somebody an update, but they engage with, they don't quit engaging with me or just engage with me to get business. My network says hello. They share themselves with me. Like, I know about Jonathan Warner and all his scuba stuff. I know about Scott Stevens and his golf. Lori Bacopoulos and she's got a horse that, I mean, she's got concerns. Like when storms came through that time, we were concerned about what was going on with Lori's horse.
So, Angie, when you talk about that, it gets to Jonathan's point about being trusted. How does that convert to being a good partner if the purpose of being a partner is to generate leads in business?
Well, this is a
Donna,
human
you're nodding your
experience, and
head.
I need to care about all of you, not just your revenue stream.
Yeah.
And I agree with Angie. I mean, and what many of you said, it's also very nice to have a complementary partnership. For instance, you know, we produce training. So if I have a partner that's a software development partner that needs training done, and vice versa, I can use them for software development. That's a very complementary. Partners are really nice. With Uli, with her languages, and I need, you know, different languages in my training. It's a complementary partnership. So that's also another really nice partnership that I often look for, is something where it's very easy and complementary. But I love what Angie's saying. If you, in my opinion, to follow on what she said, if you don't really get to know somebody and really put the skin in the game, networking and opportunities are really through close relationships.
Yeah, and if I may, I might want to hop on the Angie Lori train and the Jonathan train, because I look at relationship capital, and those are the relationships that stand the test of time. And in my world, it has to do with chemistry, because you like them, you share values, like Jonathan said, and defining your values is really key. But it's also, in addition to chemistry, it's compatibility. Could you be a referral partner? Are you an influencer? You know, are you the person that people think of when they need help? More from the standpoint of, I've got an idea, Lori, and although I'm not ready to do business with you, here's an idea I want to bounce off of you. I thought about you the other day. And so that's what I think of as building relationships that stand the test of time. We call them go-givers, or sometimes we refer to this as the win-win model. But when you've got relationships that stand the test of time, whether you have COVID or not, you're still in the game, because these people, you know, have skin in the game with you. And that to me is so vital. I've been doing this for over a decade. And had I not had the relationships that I built over time, I would have been in bad shape during COVID. I can tell you that.
Yeah. One thing I do miss, and I am looking forward to getting back, is when you are at a networking event, let's say at the chamber, and you know, you just meet somebody and you talk to them, and then you see somebody. It's so easy to make introduction, even to people, you know, you just met, but you hear a keyword. Oh, he does, I don't know, SEO. And you go, oh, Angie, like for you to meet this person. So I kind of like that speed networking and dating and making introduction. I think to me that's energizing. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that again.
So I've heard both through ABGT and other conversations that we really do like seeing each other, and being in person is, to Uli's point, energizing, makes you feel good. The question is, if you walk into a networking event and you saw somebody you knew and somebody you didn't know, who are you more likely to talk with? Because it goes to the question of, are you better off spending time developing deeper relationships or wider relationships? Any thoughts when you walk into a networking event?
So Hal, if you don't mind, this is where, and we've got to put back on our networking strategy hats again after being out for so long. And that is, if you're going to really take the time and the cost to go to an event, then it's always a good idea to put your own personal strategy in place. I'm going to go to a 1 hour networking, 1.5 hour networking event at the chamber, and my goal is to say hello to, you know, to the people I do know briefly. However, I'm going to walk out with 2, you know, new strategic alliances, and really hold yourself to that, because we are, human, and many of us in this room are very outgoing, and sometimes it's easier just to stay and talk with Uli instead of going and meeting a couple of new people. And that's what networking's all about, and building those relationships. So I guess my bottom line is, it's important. The way I try to do it now is be strategic about why am I going and what do I want to get out of it.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I'm in total alignment with you, Lori. And I also think, what can we do when we're there to instantly set ourselves apart? Because we want to be memorable in an ocean of 90 people that used to show up at the Greater North Fulton Chamber when I used to go there. How do you set yourself apart? So yeah, I start out with a mantra, and the mantra is never leave without a next step, and define those next steps as Lori has. And the second part of that is always give them a good reason. And it's not a business card up their nose, but always give them a good reason to take a next step. Sometimes the next step has nothing to do with my business. Someone says they need a videographer. That is not my arena, but I'll recommend some folks that are great that I've utilized and I value. So it's really about the go-giver, in my opinion, listening for what's not being said. And a side note, I like to go with wingmen or wing women.
Yeah.
So when I'm there and Lori's there, if Lori hears something about a need for my services, or I hear something about a need for her services, that collaborative model is not only effective, but it saves time. It builds my relationship with Lori, and we get it done with a smile on our face. So that's what I want to add to what Lori said.
That's awesome. I love it.
Adding on to Donna, about your wing person. Your wing person is a great person. Number one is, how would you like it if I showed up and said, oh, I'm Angie. I've got great experience. I'm really good at what I do. I have a super track record. Everybody I work with loves me. Blah, blah, blah. That's just, it makes me uncomfortable to say it, and it probably makes you uncomfortable to hear it. What's nice is to have your wing person to say, you know, I've got people who work with Angie. Everyone I have referred to her comes back to me with great things to say. Angie does a really good job, and all my referrals really like her. You'll value that. And would I say that for Uli? Yes, I would. Would Uli say that for me? Yes, she would. But if you go in not having prepared and say, hey, girlfriend, let's be intentional in this, and I will, everyone we meet, I'm gonna give them a side talk and say, working with you is really great. Will you do the same for me? But that goes a long way too, is to plan what you're gonna do with your wing person.
Mhm.
Anybody else using a wing person? Anybody else?
I don't use a wing person, but I guess maybe being the person who networked the least in person out of this group it's always good to see a familiar face, because it was, hard to break into those groups when I visited the Greater North Fulton chapter. So, going up to someone that you already knew, kind of break the ice and meeting new people within that group. And then that sort of leads to more discussion. So if you're a little less outgoing like myself, so it's always good to maybe find a familiar face.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
Mhm.
Lori, I got a technical problem here I'm going to take care of for just a moment. If you can keep the conversation going on how people are, I love the idea of the strategy when you walk in of having who you're going to talk to and the wingman. So the idea sounds like, how do you find, what are you doing, if anything, before you go there to get ready for that event that you can find two people the way Uli was describing? What else are people doing to make these networking events useful?
So we've heard a strategy going in. We've heard the strategy of a wingman going in and making sure you have, the intention there. Anything else?
So who all has been going back in person to these larger networking events, and how has that changed you know, how you sort of walk around the space, or is this back to the same?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about that too, Sabina, because I don't know, I'm much more selective of where if I spend up this, if I am willing to give up my evenings, you know, I'm like, really, it has to be, I don't know. So it's not because of COVID so much, it's because, I don't know, I developed this routine by going to the gym in the evenings. Do I want to really give that up? And this whole COVID year, I guess, showed that I can, you know, be selective.
So that goes to the point that there's more than 500 groups that are out there doing networking, and they're not all on Meetup. So you're right, Uli, to be selective. What is it that you're doing? How do you know? How are you judging? How's anybody judging which groups to go to?
Yeah.
So here's a question. Who in this group likes to go to large events? Like if the chamber has an after hours mixer, who likes the larger stuff?
I used to, but not anymore. And not because of COVID.
I really like him,
Where
Jonathan.
you go?
Excuse me, Laurie, why do you like those large ones?
I mean, I used to go to all the big tag mixers, and I enjoyed it because I was able to meet new people. And I mean, Hal, remember I saw you at one of those, didn't even know that you were part of the tag group. And then you introduced me to a few more people there. And so, Jonathan, I like him because I'm an extrovert. And so whenever I get into a room with a lot of people, it just really energizes me. And so I enjoy that. Again, being thoughtful about which group I go to.
Interesting. And so pre-COVID, in those larger groups, you too, Hal, like when you would leave, what would you walk away with? Would you walk away with leads, friends, networking, customer? What would you guys, I
All of
guess,
the
Ari,
above.
Hal, and Uli, what would you walk away with?
All of the above. And sometimes I would just say, hey, I may have not gotten, you know, a lead, but I just solidified some of my relationships. It is good to see people at the event. And that's good too.
It could just be a next step. I mean, like you meet 20 people. Hey, I mean, like, let's try to whittle that down to like a lunch or a breakfast or like a drink after work, just to kind of take that next step. Because like you said, going into a room of 150, 200 people, you're not going to really get a whole lot of that. Maybe like as far as like real deep connections, so maybe take it to the next step of, all right, like do I want to, is this someone I want to kind of bring into the fold?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that because I think it depends on your makeup. When my extrovert needs to be satisfied, I'd love to go to a big event and have fun and play and meet people and laugh and exchange ideas. But when my strategist shows up, which is a big part of me, then I start thinking, who's there? Can I be a cyber sleuth and do some research before I go there so I can target the people that I want to meet? And what are my objectives? Are they really well defined? Am I looking for a strategic partner? I'm not going there for leads. I'm there for relationship building. And if a lead emerges, great. But it's really to develop that know, like, and trust factor. And that is like dating. It doesn't normally happen overnight. And so before we get engaged and get married, let's go out on a date. And that's where that part of having fun, but also looking for that win-win comes into play. And so my objectives, depending on the audience, has to do with time blocking. So if I'm going to an event at the Buckhead Club at 8:00, then I might research what other things are going on in that part of town so I can be time effective. So I might end up being in a big group that would not normally be my focus, but while I'm there, why not? So time blocking has a lot to do with being effective, and along the way, I might meet some folks as well. Final point, I usually think of two questions, and one is, who do you know? It's the who do you know question. Who do you know who is looking for help in this particular area? Who do you know who's building a new course, Lori? Who do you know who's stuck in their business and wants focus? Who do you know who is, whatever, you can fill in the blank. And the second question is my favorite. And I bet y'all don't hear this too often. How can I help?
Yeah.
How can I help?
Yeah.
And in neuromarketing, we always remember the last thing we hear. We always remember the last thing we hear. And that's how you can really be memorable. That's all I got. I'm all excited. I'll calm down now.
Jonathan, how does that go to what you were asking?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's to hear different flavors of what everybody likes and what everybody's expectations are. I find it very interesting. You know,
And would you say that post-pandemic or whatever we're going through right now, it hasn't changed from when it was last year or 2 years ago? It's still build trust, have a wingman to help you build trust, go in with objectives. Has it changed?
I think it's still the same, but I think what has changed is that we're going to see people maybe doing less personal networking and finding solutions, or I mean, not even finding, but working the online solutions more effectively. So we just enrolled in the Power Teams on LinkedIn, and Mark McKenzie is in it as well, and some other people I know. That seems to be a really powerful way of networking on LinkedIn and getting your views up. So I think we will be seeing, and people will be engaging more in that because they can manage their time there better than when you go outside.
Well, sounds like, Jonathan, it sounds like Uli's observations are right up your alley of what to evaluate. So there were some really good ideas here, and help us help each other, and really hit early on. So Donna, I'm sorry, Laurie, if you go back to the screen sharing, and you'll see that we've got a couple of events coming. We are switching starting in August. We are switching to Tuesdays, the second and fourth Tuesday, so we can put a little bit more time on and lengthen this to about 40 minutes instead of 30, and it will allow us to trust. We still will have some, but it will be with the idea of having a little more time. Here was, it's not about stalking, it's about expanding my network, and I love the way Donna said how she's reaching out with her strategies. So anybody else? I think we're done, and thank you all for the input. Let's have another great week. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.